Hi, I'm Mark, developer of the HeroQuest card creator, and I wanted to show you one of the features that I'm getting in the next release. A lot of the work that I've been doing in this release is really to do with performance and optimization. There's a lot kind of under the hood that I've been tweaking and fixing to make the app work faster and to make the size of the library smaller. This is because when the app's running in a browser, the browser itself has constraints on how much space you can have, and there's always a risk that the browser might decide to clear your database. Now, I've put things in place to try and prevent that, but ultimately, if your library gets too big, it's going to be really hard to prevent that. So I'm really trying hard to make sure that the size of the library in the browser is small to kind of mitigate that risk. But not just that, it also ensures that when you export your library, if you want backups, that file is smaller as well. So I've added a number of features. One of the things I want to demonstrate quickly is a new tab in settings. If you go to the bottom here, you'll see there's a systems tab, and right here there's various kind of system information about the app. There's a lot going on here, but really all you care about is this one here, estimated library size. This is going to give you an idea of how big your library is. What you have to remember is that the app keeps kind of like a database of your cards and collections and stuff like that. But every time you upload an image, that image gets stored in the database. And you can see here right now, the bulk of our database is actually the assets. We've got 137 MB of assets, which is huge. And that's because a lot of the images I uploaded were either PNG files, which are difficult to compress, or they were unoptimized JPG files. So one of the features that I've added in the next release, 0.5.6, is a feature to convert your PNG files into JPEG. I do plan on adding more features around image optimization, but it's quite fiddly. I've tried to do it and it's a little bit painful. But this is a kind of a first step. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to import a library that has already been optimized. I spent quite a bit of time going through all of my PNG files and converting them to images. So if I go to here and import the last, you'll see in settings that our library is now 32. That's a huge reduction from the 174, 147, whatever it was. My library's actually, I think historically my library's been like 200 MB. So with the image optimization that I have in place, it allows us to shrink the library. I'm going to demonstrate that feature now by importing a larger library quickly. Let me pick, you can see there's a library there, 230, and that's from itch. So if I import this one, let's click OK, and we'll just go to system and refresh. So you can see this library was 174, which is huge. If I go over to assets, the feature that you're going to see is we can filter. Let me just turn this off actually. Assets will disable auto classification for now. So I'm going to filter by PNGs, which it has. So I've got a ton of images here that are PNG. Now obviously when you're working with assets and you want things like character artwork, anything with transparency, you're going to have to use PNGs to get that effect. But a lot of the artwork that I created using JPG, it's just card artwork. I mean, I can pick any of these. Let me just pick this one. We've got this, yeah. So I've got an image here for a card back, Alchemy. Currently this image is 754 kilobytes. And now when I click on convert to JPEG, you can see immediately at 85%, we've got a 60% reduction in size. I can hover over here and there's very little loss of quality. I can even drop this down to something like, what is that, 27%. You can start to see it there. Let me just knock it up a little bit. You know, that's still not too bad. And I've got a 90% reduction, which is huge. So when I apply this, you can see that my file now is 10% of the size it was. So what I did with the other library, I went through all of my PNG files that were essentially just artwork, and I reduced them using PNG to JPG conversion, and that is how we got from the, and I'll just import this again, that's how we went from 178 MB right down to the 32. Let me just double check that. So there we go. We've got a 32.6 megabytes. That's a huge reduction. So I guess the lesson learned here is, my advice would be, when you're using the tool, consider the kind of image format that you're going to use. If you need the image to be transparent for hero cards and monster cards and that kind of thing, icons, you should definitely use PNG. Ensure that you scale the image, reduce the resolution of the image. The card, I believe, is 756 by 1056. So really, you only need an image that's going to be at most double the size of that card. And if the image is going to be something for the back of a card or the artwork in small treasure, so if we look at like this card, for example, that image is probably only about 600 pixels at 300 dpi. And I think, I've got a feeling if I looked at that image, let's do a search for that, I think it's this one, I've got that at 1536 by 1024. That's huge. It doesn't need to be that big. It could be 600 pixels. I will be adding features in to reduce the resolution as well, but it's a bit more fiddly. Like I said, I have kind of played around. It's a bit more fiddly, and I don't want to release a half-baked solution. I want to get it right. I want to get the UI right. But that's probably going to come soon. But in the meantime, my advice would be to optimize your images. If it's artwork like this, use JPEG. Keep your images small. They don't have to be high resolution. If it has to be transparent, use PNG. I use a tool called Optifine or Opti. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a Mac OS X tool where I can select a number of images and in batch optimize them. And I usually get my images down to about 60 to 80% optimized. I would just advise everyone who's using the tool to do that ahead of time. But if you don't get to do that, you now have the feature that I built in. I believe if I go to PNG here, the remainder of these are images. Let me just quickly check through. Is it going to let me do this? I believe that the rest, yeah, so the rest are all artwork. I don't think I have any more images. Everything else is kind of artwork for cards. So yeah, that's a feature that I'm going to get in the next release. It's probably going to help a few people who maybe don't have the tools necessary to optimize their images. But yeah, hopefully this will help someone. Thank you very much.